Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Monday, April 29th. We are on our way to the month of May. Great to have you joining us here on this Monday morning to start your week. Brendan Glasheen, joined by Sean Zerillo and Jim Turvey for Monday Best Bets. You can hear Best Bets episodes of Payoff Pitch every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the regular season. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, and find us also on the video side, Action Network YouTube. We would appreciate a subscription there as well. We mentioned this a couple times, so sorry if it's repetitive for those of you that have already heard it. We've hit 200 episodes of Payoff Pitch. So as a celebration, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we'll pick our favorites each week for a chance to win some Action swag or a free 1-year subscription to Action Pro. We appreciate you all that tune in and the 5-star reviews and, of course, leaving a 5-star rating. So let's get on with it. The slate, 12-gamer today on this Monday. A couple teams are off, but we still got plenty to talk about. Sean Zerillo, what catches your eye as a best bet on this Monday?
Rays and Brewers under 8.5. Not an actual bullpen game for the Brewers, but a de facto one with Bryce Wilson pitching because he never gets through the 5th inning. And the Brewers kept their key relievers healthy for this game and well rested after a couple blowout losses to the Yankees. They used their long relievers. They kept the key relievers fresh, aside from Abner Uribe, who's kind of been up and down this season. But Hope Milner, Joe Payamps, Trevor McGill, all well rested for today. I would expect to see all three deployed so long as this game is close and competitive. And the Rays bullpen has struggled a bit this year. 5.22 ERA, 4.72 expected FIP, 9.5% strikeout minus walk rate, in the bottom 5 in baseball in all 3 categories. Pete Fairbanks, Colin Poche, both on the IL. Poche was really struggling before the IL stint, so not really sure what he's going to give them when he comes back. But their high leverage relievers are also rested for Monday. Jason Adam, Clevenger, and I still give Milwaukee a slight bullpen advantage. They also have a slight lineup and defensive advantage too, but Tampa has the starting pitching advantage with Ryan Pepiot facing Bryce Wilson. And I think Pepiot is showing signs that he's breaking out. He's only using 3 pitches, but has 5 pitches that are popping as above average offerings per pitch modeling metrics and Stuff Plus. And he has a 115 Stuff Plus rating with the arsenal he's actually deploying. So Ryan Pepiot looks great. We said that the Rays were going to turn him into their new version of Tyler Glasnow after getting it back in the Tyler Glasnow trade, and he looks like he's on that progression towards becoming an elite starting pitcher, and the Stuff Plus ratings indicate that the potential is certainly there. So I like Pepiot to keep the scoring low against the Brewers offense. Maybe the Rays bullpen comes in, gives up a few runs, the Brewers pull ahead late, like the Brewers up to -110. I think that's gone, though. So the under 8.5, projected this closer to 7.5, so 8. Under 8 down to -110 is where I'd bet it. Happy to get the 8.5, get the extra hook, and still below the key number of 9. So not a huge difference between 8.5 and 8 as there is between 9.5 and 9, but still worth getting the extra half a run. 6-2 game versus 5-2. So yep, Brewers under 8.5 and good to 8 -110.
Very good. All right, Jim Turvey, I know you like to scan the prop market, and that's what you're going to do here for your best bet.
Absolutely, yeah. I love to get in these player prop weeds, and I'm going with one Esteury Ruiz today. He's a player who many folks know for his stolen base prowess, but he's actually kind of quietly had an outstanding hitting season if you look at the StatCast metrics this year. So last year he was basically dink and dunk. If he could beat out a grounder, he'd be happy because he would turn it into a double with a stolen base. This year the contact has been a lot better. So I'm gonna, if you bear with me here, I'm going to read through some numbers from 2023 into 2024, the improvements he's made across his StatCast page. His barrel rate, 2.5% last year, all the way up to 12% this year. Along with that, his exit velocity, 82.7% last year, among the worst in baseball. It's up to 90.5. He's raised his launch angle, 9.9 degrees to 21.5. All of that kind of combines into his X slug from 316 up to 486. That's an incredible jump from a second-year player who it seems a little less fluky if it's a young player who's able to kind of figure things out. His hard hit rate, 20% to 48%. His walk rate has more than doubled as well, while keeping his strikeout rate around the same number as last year. His ground ball rate, which makes sense, tied with the launch angle, that's about halved. So all of these go together to him being a pretty solid hitter right now. And the best part is last year, he was actually pretty good against lefties. Even when he was dinking and dunking, he had a 106 weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitching compared to 78 against right-handed pitching. So he was always able to handle southpaws. This year he's hitting, again, those splits are coming over. He's hitting better against lefties. That's been true of all of his career. And now he's, if the contact is even better, and now we get him in his better platoon, I really like the look at him today in a couple of different markets. But let me get into the pitcher he's facing here before I land on the exact bet. Brady Falter. He is not, he is a pitcher that always kind of looks like he is due for regression, but kind of beats the regression. And, I'm not looking to outwardly fade him as much as it's Ruiz in his good platoon. And it's not an outstanding lefty. It's not a lefty who is going to, put up zeros across the board. So I don't mind this matchup for Ruiz. In fact, I quite like it. Falter also doesn't get strikeouts. He does rely on, soft contact. For a player like Ruiz, if he's just getting the ball in play, that's going to give him a chance to get on base because of the speed that he brings. He's, Falter by Stuff Plus is one of the worst in baseball. He's 483rd out of 509 pitchers with at least one inning of pitching this season. So he's not going to blow it by anyone. Ruiz is going to be able to put the ball in play. The weather today isn't great for home runs, but it's not terrible for offense overall there. So I like, my favorite of the ways to play Ruiz is over 1.5 total bases. You can get that at plus 155 in the market. Ironically, I think a lot of people think of Ruiz, they might think, oh, today's a good day for Ruiz. Let me get on the steals market. I'm going to avoid that way today. Falter is actually one of the best pitchers in baseball at slowing down the running game. So I want to look at him, this new pop that he's got in his bat. Let's go to the total bases. If you're looking to get in the secondary way, maybe some hits, runs, RBIs, that also brings in a little bit of fading Brady Falter, who, again, isn't the best pitcher of all time. And the A's have looked more competent than they were last year for sure. So there's a couple different ways to play Ruiz and the A's today, but my favorite is over 1.5 total bases for Esteury Ruiz. I'd play that all the way down to about plus 120. So there's a lot of wiggle room on that for me.
Falter popped up as our biggest edge for action laps today in terms of the under on strikeouts. He's sitting at 4.5. I believe we have him projected closer to 3.5. Sean Kerner has him projected closer to 3.5. So under 4.5 at minus 135 for Falter, something I'm going to consider adding. Another thing to note with Ruiz too, he was sent down to AAA, whether or not it was related to the last dive bar wristbands and everything Oakland was doing and their fans were doing to preserve the team in Oakland. But he was hitting for more power in AAA too. I believe he had 3 homers in 11 games. That was a lot of people flipping out that he was sent down, because he was immediately hitting for power in the minors. So not only in the majors is he hitting for more power and showing better StatCast metrics this year, but even when they sent him down to the minor leagues, he was crushing the ball too. So yeah, definitely unlock some power this year. It doesn't seem like the body type that would have a lot of power in it, but hit 16 in the minors across AA and AAA a couple of years ago. So there is like 20 home run upside in there, I guess, for Esteury Ruiz. Didn't see that coming last year, but I guess it's in there.
All right, good stuff on Bailey Falter and how Jim sees an edge in the player prop market going against him. Okay, let's move on to fade the public. I don't know. I had to look at this like 6 times, maybe more than that, to see the Chicago White Sox are on national TV tonight. They're hosting a national TV game on FS1. Who thought of that?
They're on a win streak,
You sweep the Rays, that's what you get.
I suppose, yeah. 6-22 White Sox with Garrett Crochet on the mound tonight. 7:40 first pitch on FS1. Joe Ryan on the mound for the Minnesota Twins. And the people, just looking at the line here, Minnesota minus 165 on the money line, totaled at 7.5. The money's pouring in on the Twins. They're not buying the sweep. The people aren't buying the sweep the White Sox just had over the Tampa Bay Rays. Any edges here, Zerillo? Are you willing to back the White Sox?
Not really. Like I kind of made a business decision that
You've said this.
I'm not going to bet on the White Sox this year. And I showed value on them all throughout the weekend. And I was just like, no. And of course I picked the Rays and Survivor this week for baseball. So that eliminated me.
Oh, geez.
So I had to rebuy into that pool. This didn't look like a great week to pick any team either. So yeah, I'm pretty mad at the White Sox. One, that, I convinced myself not to bet on them. And 2, that they eliminated me from a Survivor pool. But there is value on them today, technically. I projected this line at plus 122. You can get plus 144. And their offense seems to have awoken from their slumber. They averaged 5.3 runs per game over the past week. They finally started putting together offensive performances. And I feel like their totals got too low because they weren't doing anything offensively. And I think they went 5-1 to the over the past week. So yeah, White Sox offense finally broke out of its shell. Garrett Crochet, though, has been a bit odd. He's showing great stuff plus metrics and underlying indicators, but he's gotten shelled in his past couple starts, and I don't really know what's going on. And it's not so much like his effectiveness as much as it is getting through innings, because this White Sox bullpen has really overachieved this season. They're 20th in ERA, but they're 30th in expected FIP, 28th in strikeout minus walk rate. So I'm expecting the White Sox bullpen to perform as bad as we expected it to at some point. They haven't performed that poorly yet, but I do think it's going to happen, especially days where Michael Kopech isn't available. Like today, I think he's pitched the past 2 games. So yeah, the White Sox bullpen is due for some significant regression. I expect them to start imploding some totals on their own. But I think there's red flags in Crochet's profile from the past few starts. And even though Joe Ryan's in career best form, throwing his fastball less, gone to his secondary stuff more, slider, sweeper, and his splitter, strikeout minus walk rate up near 30%. I think he's like a legit Cy Young contender right now, but the White Sox offense did get going a little bit, and he has a home run problem. He's had it throughout his career. He gives up fly balls at a near 50% rate. He's allowed 1.5 home runs per 9 throughout his career. And there's some good weather for home runs today. 70 degrees at first pitch, 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. So do like the over in Chicago. It should be a bit higher of a park factory than it is on a typical day. On a typical day, I'd probably make this 8.1. Today, I make it closer to 8.5. So getting an over 7.5, easy bet and decision for me to make. And I like that up to about 8 at plus money.
White Sox 7-2 to the over their last 9, and as you said, 5 of their last 6 have gone over the total. But
yeah,
no
they
total
got really suppressed. The total started getting really suppressed, where I was waking up and I was like, is my park factor wrong in this game, or is something goofy going on? And yeah, I think the books just slashed like a run off all their totals, expecting them not to score, and they finally did.
I think their biggest total in that stretch of 9 games, 8.5 came up twice.
There were a bunch of 7.5s on days where you'd normally expect 8.5 in that park. So yeah, they were really low for a while.
I think I'm seeing the 6.5, couple 7s in there.
Yeah,
there you go. All right, Jim Turvey, you brave enough to take the White Sox side?
I am not.
I'm reading what you said in our show doc, and I think it's just funny to bring this up. Jim, not many thoughts, to be honest.
That is how I feel. Sean covered most of it. I knew Sean would have a good layout. I'm with him on leaning towards the over. The Twins have been one of the better offenses in baseball against left-handed pitching. So even though Crochet does flash that stuff plus, I think they have a lineup that can handle. And I do think with the weather as is, and Joe Ryan and his fly ball tendencies with Chicago waking up a little bit, I will tail him on the over, but I will not add anything in particular myself.
All right. You weren't kidding. Not many thoughts. Fair enough, which is fine. I mean, we covered this. We do this show and there's so many games, and I know Monday's a lighter slate usually, but still 12 games to look at. And we're going to move on. Let's go to underdogs. Any edges with underdogs today? Is this going to be a better week for dogs, Sean Zerillo? Because I feel like the last couple weeks you've been down on the underdog market.
Yeah, I'm betting a lot more favorites this year. If you pay attention in the app, I'm sure people have noticed it's not as underdog heavy, and we've been having success this year. So hopefully going to be staying with more favorites in general. I mean, it's just, if I have a 2% return on what I'm betting, but I'm betting mostly favorites and winning 60% of the time compared to 58% implied odds, I'm just going to be generally happier than I will be betting underdogs at the same return, winning at a 44% rate at 42% applied odds, just because you're going to be winning more. Your return might not be as good, or it might be the same as betting all the underdogs, but you're just going to be happier because you're winning more frequently. You're not going to be losing as many bets and feel as miserable. So I've enjoyed betting on more favorites this year. It's worked out. But in terms of a dog today that I think is severely undervalued and could potentially be a favorite, depending on the data points I use, the Arizona Diamondbacks at plus 120 at home against the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is a spot I expected to find ourselves betting a number of times this year. Now, Corbin Carroll clearly seems like he's playing through injury or something. His numbers are down significantly since that swing that he had where he re-injured his shoulder towards the end of last season. I believe that happened in July or August. So they've moved him down the lineup, but this Diamondbacks lineup is still really good and striking out at the lowest rate in the National League. They put everything in play. Their pitching staff, their bullpen is a little bit wonky. Their pitching is getting really banged up with with Gallen and Merrill Kelly, both dealing with issues. So I'm a bit worried about the Diamondback staff. Eduardo Rodriguez hurt, not coming back anytime soon. But James Paxton is the red flag today in this matchup. He has 11 strikeouts and 17 walks in his 4 starts this season. He's given up more walks than strikeouts in 4 of his past 6 starts. And there's a chart in my article today where you can literally see, the bump back up in velocity at the start of last season. He was throwing back closer to 97 miles an hour, which he was pre-injury. But now it's come back down closer to 93. And there's, a decline in each start basically since he spiked at the beginning of last year. His strikeout rate has tumbled along with the velocity dip. His stuff plus is down significantly compared to last season. So he says it's a mechanical issue. I don't necessarily believe that. I think there's an injury in there that he's trying to pitch through. He's also signed a 1-year deal and will be a free agent at the end of next season. So he needs to try to stay on the mound and stay healthy and find his way to more success. But really think he's struggling. And the other half of the matchup, Tommy Henry, I think, is improving. His strikeout minus walk rate is in line with major league average through his 5 starts. He added a sinker to his mix, so his ground ball rate has really spiked this season up to 50%. And he doesn't project as anything special, more of a replacement level arm, but I do think he can be closer to a 4.5, 4.25 type pitcher as long as he keeps using that sinker and having success with it. So Diamondbacks have made about plus 105 in this game. I could even make them minus 105, would bet them down to plus 115 or better. And I will see if I end up adding anything on their first 5 line as well. I wanted to find a way to bet against Paxton here, under on strikeouts or over on walks or over on hits, but I couldn't really find a line that was in agreement with my lean on this game. Everything seemed like it was aligned correctly. Jim and I were talking, though, just before we jumped on, and we did find it amusing that Paxton's earned run props is 3.5, juiced about minus 115 to the over. Tommy Henry's earned runs prop is over 3.5, juiced about minus 105 to the over. So the books are telling you that Paxton is going to give up more earned runs than Tommy Henry, yet the Diamondbacks are still a first 5 underdog. I think there's just a little bit of something indicative in those prop lines as to how the game might play out.
James Paxton, the walk props at 2.5, over plus money at plus 140.
Yeah, and the Diamondbacks just put everything in play and make a lot of contact. I could see that, I was torn, yes, they could take a lot of walks, but they might just swing aggressively and beat him up for hits because he's throwing his fast to make up for the fact that he doesn't have his slider as sharp as it used to be, or, everything seems to be off. He's throwing his fastball more frequently, and he has a expected FIP in the 6s, but he has an ERA in the low 2s. So it's worked out so far, but at some point, I don't think it will. So yeah, the Diamondbacks should be pretty aggressive with the bats tonight. I couldn't really land on the over walks, assuming I think he might get crushed with hits. So if there's an over 4.5 runs, or, Jim can discuss it further, but if there's a way to do a full fade here, an under 2.5 strikeouts, or, an over 4.5 walks, anything alternate lines, I think would be the way to go, and not just playing the base props, but finding alt lines.
Okay, and Dodgers D-backs has the largest total on the slate today too, at 10 runs. All right, Jim, what do you think? You're eyeing the D-backs as well. Is there a player prop angle as a relotist?
Yeah, I am all over Arizona today. I really love this first 5. I was looking for, I haven't found it in the market. So, either Sean or anyone who can tell me about this. Is there a way to bet an Arizona team total for the first 5 innings? Because that to me would be the best way to hyper target this.
Yeah, some books offer it. If you give me a minute, I'll poke around and see if I could find one. But yeah, it is more of a niche market compared to full game team totals. Or
I've poked around.
I got it right here. Arizona Diamondbacks team total runs first 5 over 2.5 is at even money.
Oh, see that? Okay, that's the play there. So I'll make that my favorite play. I did have some other stuff here, but just to walk through. I mean, Sean did a good job walking through, but just to kind of underline the point of the ticking time bomb that James Paxton is. Second worst among all pitchers, not even starters, all pitchers with at least 10 innings pitched this season by pitching plus. He's got that 2.61 ERA, but 5.3 if we go to the xERA, 5.82 if we go FIP, 6.19 if we go xFIP. Worst FIP minus ERA among all starting pitchers. Worst strikeout minus walk among all starting pitchers. There's just every red flag you could possibly have. Add into the fact that the Diamondbacks have absolutely cooked lefties this season. They have a league leading 142 weighted runs created plus against southpaws. It's a little bit BABIP driven, but even the slugging percentage is tops in baseball. And as Sean mentioned, they have the second lowest K rate in baseball against lefties. They're putting everything in play. I love any escalators here. If like exactly like Sean said, if we can find a way to go to extremes with this, I think this is the game that Paxton blows up. The other player prop I had targeted was Paxton under 15.5 outs. It's a little bit juiced to the under. He's only cleared this in one of his 4 starts as is. This is with him pitching well, or pitching well, at least, by results, by process. I think we all see the writing on the wall, but he hasn't really cleared this number very often. I think the Dodgers know that he's a little bit of a ticking time bomb. The only worry here, in which I'll switch the very favorite bet from this game to that team total first 5 that you just mentioned, is that they did use some of their long relievers yesterday. So I do think there's the chance that, if it goes bad, then they're like, hey, we used our long arms yesterday. He's just going to have to eat it. There is the potential for that. So maybe if you cover yourself on some escalators that way, but I do think that the median outcome is definitely under 15.5 outs for Paxton here. So yeah, definitely on Arizona first 5, anything Paxton fade, and that Arizona team total over 2.5 first 5 innings is my favorite bet.
Yeah, I like that over 2.5 as well at plus money. I make it closer to 2.75. So probably like that too, about minus 110 or so, minus 115.
All right. Very good. Team effort here. Let's go to some final bets. I think just a couple more. Zerillo, you got one more target, a first 5 target on the slate today.
Yeah, Orioles first 5 at minus 133 or better. I make it minus 144. The Yankees do have the bullpen advantage in this matchup, and Craig Kimbrell, after blowing the save yesterday, also left with the training staff and clearly was banged up. So
even more of a Kimbrell.
What's that?
No, I'm just being a shithead.
Yeah, listen, I had the Orioles full game. I had them first 5 and full game, so not too happy about that. But the A's bullpen came through again. Like the A's bullpen suppresses runs in the late innings and allowed their team to come back once again. This A's team is not as bad as most expected it to be coming into the year. But in terms of the Yankees-Orioles matchup, as I said, the Yankees have the superior bullpen, the superior lineup as well. But in terms of the projections between Grayson Rodriguez and Schmidt, and I like Schmidt a lot. I think he looks... I bet on him a lot since last season. My dad was over at the house. I was watching the Yankees game with him. He's like, "Oh, this guy has some really good breaking pitches." He was enjoying watching Clark Schmidt as well. But in terms of the xFIP, Grayson is a half run better. Their expected ERA is very similar because Grayson got lit up justifiably in his last start against the Angels. He wasn't locating well. But before that start, his expected ERA was like a full run better than Clark Schmidt. And the pitch modeling metrics have him about a half run or a full run better as well. So Grayson, pitching advantage for the first 5 innings here for Baltimore, should even out over the full game. And like the Orioles up to minus 133 for the first 5 innings.
I would tune into a live stream of you and your dad watching a baseball game and you sweating out a bet. That'd be
He prefers his NASCAR, so it might go better with him and Nick Given on a live stream. he could give more appropriate analysis. But yeah, I enjoy watching some baseball with my dad and getting his takes.
Nice. All right, Jim, you got a couple more before we get out of here.
Yeah, I'll keep them relatively quick. I like Philadelphia Phillies on the money line, full game. Christopher Sanchez, this is a very pro Christopher Sanchez pod. He's 4th and 5th among pitchers with at least 20 innings this season. And the Angels are kind of coming back to earth after a start that was annoying me as they kept getting wins, and my futures of all fading Angels was looking less and less likely. But they've slowed down a little bit. They kind of tripped over their own feet a little bit. I think in the long run, we still could be in decent shape. The other side of the pitching matchup is Griffin Canning. He's not quite as bad as his ERA, but he's also not someone I'm targeting for a positive regression. His FIP sitting in the mid 5s. I like the first 5 here as well, but I like the full game because I like the bullpen matchup or the bullpen position for the Phillies as well. One game where I am targeting first 5 is the Atlanta Braves. Max Fried, he's the kind of guy who I think sharps can sometimes look to fade. He often has an ERA that is lower than his FIP, but he's one of these guys, and there's very few of them, but there are some guys who I target as, in a sharp market. The sharps may be looking to fade this guy. I'm going to stick with them. There's some guys who I just think can beat their FIP over an extended period of time, and he is that type of guy. Really been a Max Fried guy for a long time. So I'm gonna target them there. Seattle has been struggling a bit against lefties this season, but Atlanta's bullpen isn't in great shape. So I'm actually going to be looking to keep it to the first 5 there. And then just finally, Mark Canha. He's one of my favorite guys to target when he's going up against lefties. The last couple seasons, he's really, he gets those lineup spots against them, and he has success. He's been a pretty good hitter overall this season. He gets Steven Matz on Monday, who, by strikeout minus walk has been one of the worst pitchers in baseball, 118th out of 130 pitchers with at least 20 innings, 101st by Stuff Plus. It's a good day for weather there. So I'm going to be looking at Mark Canha. He does draw a fair amount of walks, so it makes him a little bit tricky to play at times. I think I'm going to look for a walks prop and a total bases prop because I want to target him specifically. The Tigers as a whole aren't the best against lefties, but he's got the 142 weighted runs created plus against lefties since the start of last season. And that's without even like crazy batted ball luck, to be honest. It's a 280 BABIP, which, this maybe isn't relevant, but as I was going through the stats, it kind of popped to me. Of the guys with as many plate appearances as him and above him against left-handed pitchers, so really the top of the tier there, only 2 guys had a lower BABIP than him. So he's getting it through, not just like batted ball luck, but he really, he's always one who's got the strikeout and walk rate are close. And I'm a sucker for that type of batted ball profile. I really love a batter who has control of the zone. So he can hold his own against righties as well. So I don't think he'll get pinch hit. Sometimes you want to make sure those guys who really kill lefties, they aren't going to get taken out as the game goes along. So that's my final one for the day is Mark Canha. I'm going to look at walks and total bases as well for him.
Okay. Very good. So one more prop and then a couple more plays there from Jim. All right, guys, good stuff. That's our breakdown today for Monday, April 29th. Payoff pitch best bets. Again, don't forget to download and follow Jim and Sean in the free award-winning Action Network app. Leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen for a chance to win some Action swag or a free Action Pro subscription. We'll be taking a look at those as the week progresses. Also, I didn't say this off the top of the show. Zerillo mentioned our man Sean Kerner. He'll be in the Action Network Discord. I can't promise today, but he's in there often, sharing some of his strikeout props, and a lot of our contributors hang out there in the Action Network Discord channel when it comes to baseball. So it's a lot of fun. If you haven't joined that yet, check it out in the episode description here in the link. For Sean Zerillo and Jim Turvey, Brendan Glasheen, we will be back tomorrow morning for more best bets. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. Good luck on this Monday. We will see you next time.